Most people go through life caring too much about the wrong things. They care about being liked. They care about looking successful. They care about staying comfortable, being right, and avoiding pain. And in the process, they waste their limited time, energy, and attention on things that do absolutely nothing to improve their lives. This book changes that. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson is not a guide to happiness. It's a guide to clarity, to learning how to let go of all the noise, distractions, and fake priorities, and focus only on what actually matters. It's honest, it's raw, it's uncomfortable at times, but that's exactly why it works. In these chapters, you won't be told that you're special, you won't be promised overnight success, and you definitely won't be coddled. Instead, you'll learn how to take responsibility for your life, how to embrace failure, how to choose your pain, and make it count. This isn't a book about not caring at all. It's a book about caring better. So if you're ready to stop living by everyone else's expectations, if you're ready to stop giving a fuck about the wrong things, then let's begin. Chapter 1, Don't Try. Charles Bukowski was an alcoholic, a gambler, a cheater, a loner, a man who spent much of his life sleeping on friends' couches, scraping by with low-paying jobs and a belly full of booze. He was also a poet, and eventually a successful one. When Bukowski finally got his first publishing deal, the man was already in his 50s. His work celebrated all the parts of himself that most people would hide. The failure, the misery, the rejection, the self-destruction. And when his first book was released, the cover said just 2 words, "Don't try." That's not motivational. It's not even remotely positive, but it's brutally honest. And it became Bukowski's message to the world. His philosophy wasn't about rising above your circumstances or dreaming big. It was about embracing your flaws, your mistakes, your failures, and not giving a damn what anyone thought about it. Because trying implies that you're not good enough. Trying is saying, I need to be something else. But Bukowski's life, messy, painful, ugly, was his art. He didn't try to be someone else. He just was. And that's the paradox. When you stop caring so much about being something, you become free to be yourself. We live in a culture obsessed with more. More happiness, more success, more self-esteem, more everything. We're told to care deeply about everything. Our job, our body, our relationships, our status, our likes, our followers. The result? We constantly feel inadequate. We're always comparing ourselves. We see someone with a better body, a fancier vacation, a nicer car, and suddenly we feel like failures. Because if they're doing so great and I'm not, then something must be wrong with me, right? But here's the truth no one likes to admit. Life is limited. You can't care about everything. You only have so many fucks to give in your lifetime, so you need to choose them carefully. People often misunderstand what not giving a fuck means. It doesn't mean being indifferent. Indifference is what you feel when you're numb, when you've checked out, when nothing matters. But that's not the goal here. Not giving a fuck means being okay with being different. It means being okay with people not liking you. It means being comfortable with failure, with rejection, with awkwardness, with being wrong. It's about choosing what's worth your care and letting go of everything else. Think of it this way. You're going to die someday. So will I. So will everyone you know. That's a dark thought, but it's also freeing. Because when you realize how short and fragile life is, you stop wasting time on meaningless drama. You stop worrying about impressing people you don't even like. You stop pretending to be something you're not. And you start focusing on the things that matter. Manson calls this the subtle art of not giving a fuck because it's not easy. It takes practice. It takes awareness. It means constantly asking yourself, what do I really care about? What am I willing to suffer for? What am I okay letting go of? The world will try to convince you that you should care about everything. But that's a trap. You can't. And trying to care about everything only leads to burnout, anxiety, and endless comparison. Here's another mind-bender for you. The desire for a more positive experience is itself a negative experience. And the acceptance of a negative experience is itself a positive one. Let that sink in. The more you desperately want happiness, the more you reinforce the fact that you don't have it. The more you chase success, the more you feel like a failure. The more you seek love and approval, the more you feel alone. Why? Because chasing something is a constant reminder that you're not there yet. But when you accept your experience, even if it's painful, uncomfortable, imperfect, you stop fighting yourself. And from that place, real peace begins. This is what psychologists call the backwards law. Wanting something only highlights its absence. Accepting your reality opens the door to change. But we don't like that. We want control. We want guarantees. We want to avoid pain. We're told to think positive, dream big, never give up. And while those things sound good, they often backfire. When you constantly tell yourself, I'm great, I'm amazing, I'm successful, deep down, a part of you knows it's BS. And the more you repeat it, the more it feels fake. Manson isn't saying you shouldn't improve your life. He's saying the obsession with feeling good all the time is what ruins us. You're not supposed to be happy 24/7. No one is. Life is hard. Pain is real. Failure is guaranteed. But when you stop running from those things, when you stop giving a fuck about how perfect your life looks, you gain something much more powerful. Honesty, clarity, freedom. Bukowski didn't become successful because he cured his addiction or fixed all his flaws. He became successful because he accepted them. He told the truth about his pain, his loneliness, his brokenness, and people loved him for it. He didn't try to be a role model. He didn't try to be liked. He didn't try to win. He just wrote. And by not trying, he became something rare, authentic. That's what this chapter is really about. Not becoming better, not impressing others, not chasing more, but stripping all that away and asking, what matters enough to me that I'm willing to struggle for it? Because that is the thing you should give your fucks to. Everything else, let it go. Chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. That's not something most people want to hear, but it's true. We spend so much time chasing happiness through success, through wealth, through relationships, that we forget one uncomfortable truth. Happiness isn't something you achieve. It's something you solve. And to solve it, you need problems. Not just any problems, meaningful ones. The kind of problems you want to have. See, life is a never-ending series of problems. You either solve your current problems or trade them in for new ones. Even when things seem perfect, your mind will invent a fresh problem just to keep busy. That's how it works. So the question isn't, how do I avoid problems? The real question is, what kind of problems am I willing to deal with? Because solving problems brings happiness. Avoiding them only brings emptiness and anxiety. You feel good when you fix something. You feel confident when you overcome something. You feel proud when you survive something difficult. Happiness comes from progress, from action, not from escape. Think about lottery winners. They often end up miserable. Why? Because they skip the process. They skip the struggle. And without struggle, there's no meaning. Without effort, there's no reward. Without problems, life feels hollow. You can't trick your way into happiness. You earn it by solving the right problems. Avoiding pain doesn't work. The more you avoid your problems, the worse they become. The more you numb yourself, the less alive you feel. There's a simple rule of life. You don't get a pain-free existence. You only get to choose your pain. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret, the pain of growth or the pain of stagnation, the pain of honesty or the pain of hiding. You get to choose, and that's what separates happy people from miserable ones. Not the absence of problems, but the type of problems they're working on. Here's the harsh reality. Everyone has problems. The rich, the poor, the successful, the struggling. But not all problems are equal. A poor person might have problems like rent and food. A rich person might have problems like trust funds, taxes, or lawsuits. Would you rather have the poor person's problems or the rich person's? The point isn't to avoid problems, it's to upgrade your problems. And that starts by choosing your values. If your values are shallow, like wanting to be famous or adored, you'll have shallow problems. You'll be constantly worried about what people think, endlessly checking likes and comments, always needing validation. But if your values are deep, like being a great parent or living with integrity, you'll still have problems. but they'll be worth it. You'll be tired. You'll be challenged. You'll be vulnerable, but you'll feel alive. We all want the good life, but not everyone wants the struggle that comes with it. We want the reward, but not the process. We want the results, but not the effort. We want the destination, but not the journey. Everyone wants to be fit. Few want to wake up early and train. Everyone wants success. Few want to face failure again and again. Everyone wants love. Few want to have hard conversations. So the better question isn't, what do I want out of life? The better question is, what pain am I willing to endure? That's where your real values live, in what you're willing to suffer for, because that is what defines your life. Not your dreams, not your goals, not your intentions, but the struggles you choose to embrace. Happiness doesn't come from escaping pain. It comes from finding meaningful pain, struggles that matter. So choose your problems, choose them wisely, and stop chasing the myth of a problem-free life. Because the people who live best are the ones who figured out what's worth struggling for. Chapter 3, You Are Not Special. There's this belief we've all been sold, that we're special, unique, destined for greatness. From the moment we're kids, we're told we're extraordinary, that we deserve happiness, success, and love just because we exist. But here's the brutal truth. You are not special, and that's not an insult. It's a relief. See, when you believe you're special, you start to expect special treatment. You start to believe your problems are more important than other people's. Your emotions, your struggles, your story, they all get blown out of proportion. And when reality doesn't meet those expectations, you crash hard. Because no matter how great you think you are, life doesn't owe you anything. And the world isn't watching your every move with bated breath. Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to be thinking about you. This "I'm special" lie is part of what psychologists call the self-esteem movement. A trend that started in the 60s and 70s, where we began teaching kids that just feeling good about yourself was the key to success. Trophies for everyone. No one fails. Everyone wins. But what happened? We created a generation that's afraid of failure, a generation that expects rewards without effort, a generation that equates discomfort with injustice. And as Manson points out, this obsession with self-esteem has made people fragile. The truth is, if you want to build real self-respect, not the fake Instagram filter kind, you have to earn it. And you earn it by confronting hard truths, by taking responsibility, by doing things that are uncomfortable but important. When you stop pretending your problems are unique, you start seeing the world more clearly. When you stop telling yourself you're destined for greatness, you start focusing on getting better. And when you stop trying to be different all the time, you get the freedom to just be yourself. Look, suffering is part of life, and thinking your suffering is somehow more meaningful than everyone else's doesn't help. It isolates you. Yes, your pain is real, your trauma is valid, your story matters, but so does everyone else's. Believing you're uniquely broken doesn't make you special, it just makes you stuck. Everyone has problems. Everyone fails. Everyone feels insecure. That's not a glitch. That's the design. There's this idea in Buddhism. Every person is both the sky and the dirt. You're capable of greatness and failure. You have potential and limits. You are worthy and flawed. Real growth begins when you stop trying to be exceptional and start being honest. When you accept your limitations, you become free to improve what you can control. When you stop clinging to the fantasy of perfection, you gain clarity. Here's what happens when you accept that you're not special. You stop expecting life to be fair. You stop avoiding difficult conversations. You stop waiting for the world to recognize your greatness. You start doing the work, because nobody is coming to crown you. And there is no magical moment when everything falls into place. There's just now. There's just you, showing up, flawed, messy, human. And that's enough. The paradox is this. You become extraordinary by accepting you're not. You improve by admitting you're average. You gain confidence by admitting your insecurities. You grow by embracing your failures. It's not about being special, it's about being real. And once you drop the fantasy of being exceptional, you finally get to live a life that's actually worth living. Chapter 4. The value of suffering. Here's a question most people never ask themselves. Why am I doing this? Why are you chasing that goal, dating that person, obsessing over that job, worrying about that future? We rarely stop to question the meaning behind our desires. We just assume that if we want something badly enough, it must be right. That our feelings define our values. That pain means something's wrong. But here's the twist. Suffering isn't always bad. In fact, it's often necessary. The reality is, we all choose what to give a fuck about. And we all suffer, just in different ways. The difference between people who live well and those who don't, the quality of their values, the reason behind their suffering. You see, your values determine your priorities, and your priorities shape your problems, and your problems shape your life. If your values suck, your problems will suck. And if your problems suck, your life will feel, well, pretty fucking awful. Let's say your top value is being liked by everyone. That means every little disagreement, every bit of criticism, every sideways glance will feel like a personal attack. Or maybe your value is always being right. Then every mistake you make will feel like a failure of identity. You'll argue endlessly, not to understand, but to defend your ego. But if your value is honesty, then telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, feels right, even if it's hard. If your value is growth, then failure isn't the end. It's the lesson. This is why your values matter. They dictate the kind of suffering you're willing to endure. Let's be real, you can't escape pain, but you can choose pain with purpose, pain with meaning, pain that builds. That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. Take relationships. If your value is superficial, like being admired or never feeling rejected, you'll struggle. You'll avoid conflict, suppress your needs, and end up resenting people. But if your value is connection or honesty, you'll accept that sometimes love means hard conversations. Sometimes love means being vulnerable. Sometimes love means walking away. Yes, it hurts, but it's worth it. Manson argues that most of our misery doesn't come from pain itself, but from believing we shouldn't feel it. We think life is supposed to be easy. We think success should be smooth. We think love should be effortless. So when it's not, when we struggle, we assume something must be wrong. But no, struggle is the path. You grow through what you're willing to suffer for. That's why changing your life isn't about setting better goals. It's about asking better questions. What do I care about? What's truly important to me? What pain am I willing to face over and over again? Because your answers to those questions will shape your choices, your relationships, and your future. In the end, values aren't just abstract ideas. They're the compass for your life. They help you make decisions when things get messy. They help you stand firm when things fall apart. They give your suffering direction. And the truth is, you don't get to avoid pain. You only get to choose what pain is worth it. So choose values that lead to growth, not vanity. Choose struggles that align with your character, not your ego. Choose a life you'd still want, even when it's hard. That's how you live with purpose. That's how you suffer well. Chapter 5, You Are Always Choosing. Here's a hard pill to swallow. You are responsible for everything in your life. Yes, everything. That doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it does mean that how you respond to everything is your responsibility. Let's break it down. You get rear-ended at a red light. That's not your fault. But how you react to it, that's on you. You grew up in a broken home, or lost someone too soon, or were betrayed by someone you loved. Those things may not be your doing. But what you do with the pain, how you carry it, or release it, or use it to fuel your life, that's a choice. See, we often confuse fault with responsibility. Fault is in the past. Responsibility is in the present. We love blaming people. We love saying, it's because of them. But blame doesn't help. Blame just keeps you stuck. Responsibility is the path forward. Let's be honest. Life is unfair. Some people are born into privilege. Others into pain. Some catch lucky breaks. Others get knocked down over and over again. But fairness isn't the point. The point is, what will you do now? You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can always choose your response. Even doing nothing is a choice. Even avoiding a decision is a decision. You're always choosing, whether you admit it or not. A big part of maturity is accepting this. It's realizing that your happiness isn't handed to you, that peace doesn't just appear, that success, real success, is built by taking ownership, especially when it's uncomfortable. Victimhood is seductive. It feels good to point the finger. But freedom lives on the other side of responsibility. Responsibility is power. Because when you accept responsibility, you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. You stop hoping the world will suddenly become fair. You stop giving your energy to things you can't control. Instead, you ask, what now? What's my next move? Look at the great transformations in life. They always start when someone says, I don't like this situation, but I'm going to do something about it. That's ownership. That's courage. And sure, it might be painful, it might be hard, but it's yours. And that makes it meaningful. Let's say you're in a toxic relationship. You didn't choose their behavior, but you are choosing to stay. You didn't ask to be treated poorly, but you are choosing how long you'll tolerate it. Or maybe your career feels stuck. Maybe you were dealt a bad hand, but you are choosing how much effort you'll give, how much you'll learn, how many times you'll try again. You're always choosing, every day, every moment, every decision, even the tiny ones. Manson's point in this chapter is simple. Responsibility is not about blame. It's about ownership. It's about taking your life back from the things you can't control. You don't choose everything that happens to you, but you do choose the meaning you give it. You choose your mindset. You choose your response. You choose your future. And that's where your power lives. So stop waiting for someone to save you. Stop hoping life will get easier. Instead, look around and ask, what am I choosing today? Chapter 6. You're wrong about everything, but so am I. Let's get one thing straight. You're wrong about a lot of things. So am I. So is everyone. We're all wrong, all the time. And the best we can hope for is to be a little less wrong today than we were yesterday. This might sound depressing at first, but actually it's freeing. Because the moment you accept that your beliefs might be flawed, your memories might be off, your judgments might be biased, that's the moment you open yourself to real growth. Being wrong isn't failure. Being wrong is progress, if you let it be. The problem is that most people don't want to admit when they're wrong. We cling to our beliefs because they make us feel safe, secure, right. We need to feel right. But that need, that addiction to certainty, is exactly what holds us back. The more certain you are, the more you close yourself off. You stop listening. You stop learning. You defend instead of grow. And what's worse, we're usually the most certain when we're the most wrong. Think about all the things you once believed that turned out to be nonsense. The person you thought was the one. The job you thought would make you happy. The beliefs you held about success, politics, love, or yourself. You weren't dumb. You were just human. And in 10 years, you'll probably look back at today and realize, wow, I was wrong about that too. That's not failure. That's evolution. Here's Manson's idea. Instead of chasing certainty, chase doubt. Instead of always asking, how am I right? Ask, how might I be wrong? What am I missing? What if the opposite is true? Because progress doesn't come from clinging to your current ideas. It comes from being willing to update them. Think of beliefs like tools. If a tool works for you, great, use it. But if it stops working, toss it. Don't get sentimental about it. Don't build your identity around it. Truth isn't something you possess. Truth is something you pursue. And that pursuit means constantly challenging yourself, questioning your assumptions, and being humble enough to admit when you've been wrong. There's a story Manson tells about a guy who spent years writing angry letters to the government, demanding that something be done about a particular injustice. One day he realized he'd been interpreting the law completely backward. He wasn't the victim. He was in the wrong the whole time. And that realization shattered him. Instead of accepting it and learning from it, he spiraled into depression and rage because his identity was tied to being right. That's what happens when your ego gets attached to your beliefs. So here's the takeaway. Be skeptical of your own certainty. Be open to being wrong. Be humble in your thinking. Because the more you question yourself, the sharper your understanding becomes. The more you challenge your beliefs, the more reliable they become. Being wrong isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of a better one. If you're willing to let go of your pride, you're going to be wrong about your values, your goals, your relationships, your fears, all of it. But that's okay, because every time you're wrong, you're a little closer to getting it right. Chapter 7. Failure is the way forward. Most people think success looks like this. Get inspired, take action, get results, feel motivated, repeat. Sounds nice, right? But in the real world, it's usually the opposite. Take action, fail, learn, adjust, take better action, eventually succeed. It's messy, it's frustrating, and it's built almost entirely on failure. Here's the truth. You can't improve without failing first. You can't learn guitar without sounding terrible at it. You can't run a business without making bad decisions. You can't be a good partner without messing up and growing from it. We think motivation leads to action, but the reality is action leads to motivation. You don't wait to feel ready, you act, and that action generates momentum. Want to get in shape? Don't wait to feel motivated. Just put your shoes on and go for a walk. Once you start, the energy follows. Want to write a book? Don't wait for the perfect idea. Sit down and write. Even if it's garbage, garbage is better than nothing. Garbage gets you started. Manson calls this the do something principle. When you're stuck or overwhelmed, just do something, anything. Because action isn't just the effect of motivation. It's the cause of it. You build confidence by acting, not by waiting. You gain clarity by trying, not by planning forever. The more you act, the more information you gather. The more feedback you get, the more your fear starts to shrink. But here's the problem. Most people are terrified of failure. They see it as proof that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy, so they don't try at all. They stay safe. They stay stuck. But avoiding failure guarantees one thing. You also avoid success. Every successful person you admire has failed. A lot. The difference is, they kept moving. They used failure as feedback. They let it refine them, not define them. It's not that successful people don't feel fear. It's that they don't let fear decide for them. They act despite it. They fail because of it. And then they learn what works. That's how progress happens. Try, fail, learn, try again. Smarter. Let's be clear. Failure still sucks. It's uncomfortable. It's embarrassing. Sometimes it stings in places you didn't know could sting, but you can't skip it. You don't get to confidence without first embracing discomfort. You don't get to excellence without first enduring embarrassment. You have to be willing to look stupid in order to one day look brilliant. So here's the shift. Stop asking, what if I fail? Start asking, what will I learn if I do? Stop waiting for courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act with fear still present. Every skill you've ever learned started with awkward steps. Every goal you've ever hit began as something that felt too hard, but you did it anyway. And that made all the difference. So when in doubt, just start. Take the next small step. Do something. Even if it's the wrong thing, it's movement. And movement is where change begins. Because failure is not the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Chapter 8. The importance of saying no. We're taught to be positive, to be agreeable, to be open to everything. But here's the truth. If you don't say no to something, your yes means nothing. You can't be everything. You can't do everything. You can't care about everything. And if you try, you'll burn out, lose yourself, and end up giving a fuck about all the wrong things. Saying no isn't about being rude. It's about being clear. It's saying, this is who I am. This is what I value. This is what I'm not willing to compromise. The more clearly you define your boundaries, the more powerful your choices become. Love this. Commitment gives you freedom. Sounds backward, right? But when you commit to something, a person, a value, a career, a mission, you eliminate the noise. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. You stop living in maybe, because maybe is the enemy of growth. Maybe keeps you stuck in the in-between. Maybe I'll change jobs. Maybe I'll leave this relationship. Maybe I'll pursue that passion. But maybe is just fear in disguise. It's a way of avoiding risk while pretending you're thinking about it. Clarity doesn't come from more options. Clarity comes from saying no to most of them and going all in on what matters. Let's talk about relationships. We're told love means saying yes to someone. But real love? Real love is built on saying no, together. No to dishonesty. No to disrespect. No to shallow connections and half commitments. A healthy relationship isn't just two people enjoying each other. It's two people choosing each other and everything else they're willing to let go of for that connection. Mark Manson tells the story of him and his now wife. They were traveling together and faced tons of problems. Miscommunications, sickness, arguments. But instead of quitting, they leaned in. They confronted the hard stuff. They said no to avoiding conflict. That's what made it real. Because love isn't just about being happy together, it's about struggling well together. The same goes for your career. You can't pursue every opportunity. You can't chase every idea. Success comes from deep work, focused energy, and learning to say, no, that's not aligned with what I'm building. No, I'm not spending my time on that. No, I don't value that anymore. Every no is a yes to something deeper. This chapter is about limiting yourself on purpose, not because you're afraid, but because you're intentional. You accept that you can't do it all, and that's what gives your choices power. Freedom isn't having unlimited options. Freedom is knowing what to ignore. So stop chasing more. Start choosing less, but better. Stop fearing no. Start using it as your compass. Because the life you want isn't built by saying yes to everything. It's built by choosing what truly matters and letting the rest go. Chapter 9. And then you die. This is it. The chapter where all the cleverness, philosophy, and profanity come to a single, sharp point. You're going to die. No matter how much you achieve, no matter how many likes you get, how much money you make, or how many people you impress, you will die. And the moment you truly understand that, not just intellectually, but in your bones, is the moment your life begins to change. We spend our lives trying to avoid this truth. We distract ourselves. We chase status, comfort, and attention. We act like we have time. We act like death won't happen to us. At least not yet. But ignoring death doesn't make life better. It just makes us afraid. Facing death? Accepting it? That's where freedom begins. Manson tells the story of a friend who died young and suddenly, and how that moment shattered his perspective. Suddenly, all the petty anxieties, the emails, the bills, the online arguments, felt meaningless, and in their place came clarity. If this life is all we get, then we have to live on purpose. You realize most things are not worth stressing over. Most arguments are not worth having. Most success is just noise. When you remember death, your values sharpen. Your time becomes sacred. Your energy becomes intentional. The ancient Stoics had a practice called memento mori. Remember you will die, not to make life feel bleak, but to make it feel urgent, real, meaningful. Because when you remember that this ride ends, you stop waiting for permission to live. You stop trying to be someone else. You stop giving so many fucks about things that don't matter. You start asking, am I living the life I want? Am I loving the people I care about? Am I choosing my struggles with intention? Am I using my time well? Here's the truth death teaches us. Everything you say yes to is also a no to something else. You only have so many years, so many days, so many chances to give a fuck. So stop wasting them on things that don't align with who you truly are. Manson reminds us, there is no ultimate meaning that life hands to you. You create the meaning. You decide what matters. You choose what your life will stand for, not in grand gestures, but in everyday choices. And when death is no longer something you run from, you stop living like a victim. You start living like someone who knows the clock is ticking. and every tick is a chance to choose. Because in the end, you don't get to control how or when you die, but you do get to control what you give a fuck about while you're here. So choose wisely, choose boldly, choose truthfully, because this is it. This is your one shot, and then you die. Conclusion: the art of choosing what matters. If there's one truth at the heart of everything you've heard in this book, it's this: you only have so many fucks to give, so give them wisely. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You don't need to chase every dream, please every person, or win every battle. What you do need is clarity. Clarity about your values, clarity about your responsibilities, clarity about what you're willing to struggle for, and what you're ready to let go of. Because not giving a fuck doesn't mean apathy. It means discipline. It means choosing what truly matters and refusing to waste your life on what doesn't. You grow by facing discomfort. You learn by being wrong. You live fully by remembering you're going to die. So stop giving your energy to things that drain you. Start showing up for the things that move you, shape you, and define you. Say no more often. Commit to the struggles that mean something. Take ownership of your life, especially the parts you didn't choose. Because the most powerful thing you can do is not to have more, but to care less about the noise and care more about what actually counts. If this message hit you deep, don't let it stop here. Revisit the chapters, reflect on your values, journal the one thing you need to stop giving a fuck about today. Share this audiobook or video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to go deeper into mastering your mind, emotions, and goals, check out the next book on our channel. You'll find it just as life-shifting. Subscribe, like, and follow for more real, raw, no BS insights that actually make a difference. Because your time is limited. Your energy is limited. Your fucks are limited. So make them count.